Hello, Melissa Crook here from the Embracing Layers Network. Welcome to our 5 years of Feel celebration today. I'm going to bring you some highlights from the last 5 seasons. I'm going to share some reflections, some feedback that we've gotten from our network and people that are part of our community. I'm going to bring back some past guests and share them with you. I'm so excited to be with you. So to kick it off, I'm going to get started with, we're going to talk about a few things reflection-wise as we get into this. I've had a lot of time to think about this the last few weeks, and it's such a special day. 5 years ago, I hit publish on the very first episode of the Feel podcast, and I had no idea where this journey would lead or where this thing was going. I simply believed women needed more honest conversations about emotional wellness, boundaries, self-worth, identity, and all the layers that make us who we are. Today, that single podcast has grown into what we call the Embracing Layers Network, and it's become a community that now includes our podcast and panel discussions, blogs, newsletters, book clubs, an award-winning book, an online course series, and most importantly, hundreds of meaningful conversations. Over these 5 years, we've celebrated milestones I could have never imagined, including more than 22,000 podcast downloads, several podcast awards, the publication of our book that I mentioned earlier, Embracing Layers Unapologetically. And we just celebrated the 1-year anniversary on July 1st of our Embracing a Feel-Fueled Life online course series. And you'll notice if you follow us on social media, we're offering those courses at 50% off throughout the summer to celebrate that milestone. But that's not what I'm most proud of here. What I am most proud of here is the women who have stopped and written me to say, I'm most proud that I finally set a boundary. I stopped apologizing. I chose myself. I realized I'm not alone. You reminded me of who I actually am, who I have always wanted to be. And that's why we're here today. I also, if you noticed, if you follow us on socials, our season 8 top guest, let me spit that out. Our season 8's top guest, Leslie Draffin, couldn't join us live today. So she and I pre-recorded a couple of weeks ago a conversation to share her reflections on where she's grown and what she's learned since her episode in season 8 dropped with us. And she and I recorded that over a year and a half ago. So we dropped that about 15 minutes before I went live here to kind of kick off the day. If you didn't get a chance to catch that conversation, it's available on all of our podcast platforms. So just jump on there and check that out. It's a great reflection time with her. And don't miss that episode either. And as you go to our show notes today, those episodes will be listed. If you go to our newsletter that's on Substack, you can find those links. But a great way to kick off our day. And I'm so appreciative of Leslie taking that time with me. Before we bring some friends on from our past season's most popular episodes, I want to take a moment to look back for a minute. I want to go to our newsletter, and I'm not going to read through the whole thing. You can go to our Substack at the Feel Podcast Substack and catch that and read through that. But I want to go over a few highlights and go down memory lane for a moment. And so as we celebrate this, we launched, I mentioned already, this is the 5-year anniversary week. We launched our trailer 5 years ago on July 12th, 2 days ago. We launched our very first episode with me as a solo guest and introducing the concept 5 years ago, yesterday. And that was just such a reflective moment for me. And I went back and listened to that episode and really took heart and took note of where we've been and all I've learned in these 5 years. And so that was the beginning of what I didn't know at the time would become the Embracing Layers Network. And so as we went through that time and we really kind of got our feet under us that first year and a half, and those guests, especially the first year and a half, were women from my own life. that I'd lived all over the country. I knew a lot of women, and I knew they had stories to tell. And I knew that they had been living out of narratives that weren't serving them. And they were ready to shift that and talk about that and share about the things that get in our way of us actually coming home to ourselves and being the people and women we were designed to be. So that first year and a half was just women I knew that were willing to trust me with their stories and come on and have these conversations. And as we continue to grow and I got my feet wet and got a little more grounded in these conversations and where I wanted this to go, I joined some communities, including Podmatch. And in the fall of 2022, they asked me the question of, do you have a book? And I was like, am I supposed to have a book? I don't know. Should we have a book? And they're like, what's a great way to reach people that maybe aren't podcast listeners and get your message into another medium and get it to spaces and places that maybe the podcast isn't reaching. And so we started thinking about that. And my writer, Jessica Garrison, I was like, you're an aspiring author. What do you think? And so we started the work on the book. And then in June of 2023, we were awarded 5 awards from Speak Up Talk Radio in the categories of cause awareness, diversity and equity inclusion, mental health, relationships, and self-improvement. And it was like, oh my gosh. And a big shout out to Pat Rulo. She was one of the first people who really, outside of my network, outside of the women I knew, that said, hey, you're doing something important here, and I want to recognize you for that. So I will always be so incredibly grateful to her. And so we got those awards. We were getting our footing. We joined some networks. We were working on the book. And then in the summer of 2023, I got to be a guest with a good friend who became a collaborator with us, Lori Carice. I was a guest with her on her podcast that summer, 360 Talk Radio for Women. And she then invited me to bring our content and create an online internet radio show in 2024. And at that point, I was like, okay, we're working on a book and we're going to do this internet radio show thing along with the podcast. This is starting to feel like a network. And so I think that we need to create kind of an umbrella network and then create a home for these places, this field podcast that's kicked us off, this Embracing Layers Unapologetically book that we're creating, and this Embracing Layers radio show. And so we did. And so my very talented editor, who's also a graphic designer, Rio San Luis, created some logos for each of the individual things as well as a network logo. And in January 29th, 2024, we announced that these things fell under the Embracing Layers network window. We have a year's worth of content on our internet radio show that we're able to share and bring on so many more guests and introduce the concept of our panel conversations that now continue today every Monday on our YouTube channel. That years of archived work is on our Substack. So if you're a paid Substack subscriber, you get access to that entire year of the 2024 radio show and all of its content. But we continue to grow and evolve. And it was just this, all of a sudden I was looking back and realizing, oh my gosh, we have created a whole community here. And I've connected now with hundreds of women, and we've got multiple media forms that we can reach this feel message with. And then last spring of May 2025, I was encouraged by Lulu Agan, shout out to Lulu, to write an online course and really bring this whole thing home. And I'd already been doing some public speaking and sharing the message locally and virtually, which I would love doing. And I realized, oh my gosh, I really love this speaking thing. I really want to pursue this. And then launched the online course last summer. And so here we are today. And it's just such a wonderful time to reflect on that. But I will tell you, I had no idea any of that was coming 5 years ago when I started this, to just kind of sit there. I'm like, oh my gosh, we've created this whole community, a network of resources, with my goal being I want to reach women wherever it is they're comfortable and they feel safe, whether it's through an online course, a book, a panel show, a podcast. I also offer one-on-one empowerment sessions with me now. Wherever it is you feel safe and comfortable, there's a resource and access to you, along with our amazing guests and all of their resources. So I wanted to share a little bit of that timeline with you. But as I do that, it is time now to bring on our first guest. my very own staff member, the lovely Charlotte Feehan. Charlotte, I'm going to add you to the stage. Hello.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning. So Charlotte is here pulling double duty today. She has been a staff member with me for 4.5 of the 5 years. She and Jessica Garrison have been with me from almost the get-go. Charlotte's also been a willing guest on multiple episodes of ours here on the Field Podcast, not only as a panelist, but also just as an individual guest herself. So go check out all the places Charlotte's been. But she has the great honor of being part of our top episode from season 3. And that episode was something that kind of came out of it birthed from a blog that Jessica wanted to write the previous spring. And we had already recorded all of our episodes in that spring, but she wanted to write a blog about summer body expectations. And we agreed that we would follow that up with an episode in the winter that brought in kind of the full circle of that conversation. And it's called Beauty and Beauty Privilege. What is it? Who defines it? And how do we find our beauty in it? And I've got that linked here. And it's going to be in our show notes later as you go back to find the information and links. But Charlotte, welcome. Thank you so much for joining me today. As we get into this, and you have such a unique perspective on this, being both a staff member and someone who's been a guest on here multiple times. But we knew this conversation was special and important from the get-go. As you think back to our conversation, what still stands out to you?
Yeah, so that episode I really think was such a great conversation because I just think both you and I and Jessica and Michaela did a really great job kind of bouncing off of all the points that we brought up in the episode. And a lot of the things that I wanted to talk about, somebody else would bring up. And then I was so excited to kind of add my own take on it as well. And one of the things that really stood out to me from that episode was talking about unsolicited comments on people's bodies on social media and how they can be very harmful in perpetuating different insecurities and stereotypes. And I think being the social media specialist and having that kind of background as well, you see the positives of it and you also can see the negative effects of it because with social media, it's so easy to hide behind the screen. There's that sense of anonymity and almost that full sense of confidence. Like I can get away with saying things that I would never have the courage to say to somebody's face, but because I can hide behind my screen, I can say something that I would never say to that person in person. So that's definitely one of the downsides that I remember talking about and how that can really have a negative impact on someone's self-worth. And the other thing is the more internal aspect of it, that when you're looking at things on social media, it's important to be mindful and take everything with a grain of salt because oftentimes whatever we post on social media is that highlight reel. And I'm guilty of it too. I wouldn't post something that made me feel bad about myself or that I felt like I didn't look good in. And everybody is the same way. They want to post the things that they feel good about and they feel confident about. So if you're feeling at your lowest and you're looking at somebody else's social media and looking at their highlight reel, it can make you feel really bad about yourself, but it's important to just take it with a grain of salt and remember that everything that we see on social media isn't real. It's what the people want us to see.
Yeah. Yeah. And you were, I think being, because you come to this social media and you create so many great reels for us, you've got a film minor background. So you're very well aware of the impact of media, the joy of it, and also the things we have to be aware of in it. And so I think that you added that you were also very vulnerable this episode about your own experience, about the things you used to post for affirmation versus what you learned. Like, wait a minute, what is this grounded in? Where is this coming from? Is this from a healthy place? And that's one of my favorite things is all three of you. I mean, honestly, this reel that you chose Michaela's soundbite from this conversation when we highlighted this top episode, as we have been counting down our top episodes from each season, and the feedback that got was incredible. Like even these many years later, this was from season 3, we're in season 10, 7 seasons later, and people are still responding and reacting to it. So it has so much to it. What have you learned? And you touched on this a little bit already, but not just from this conversation, but what have you learned since then? And what does feel mean to you today?
Yeah. So, in terms of what I've learned, I know in our first conversation, I talked a lot about being a people pleaser and how oftentimes everyone else's needs came before my own. And I would often overextend myself because I had that mindset of like, I just don't want to disappoint anyone else. I want to make sure everybody likes me and that, I'm pleasing everybody. And now I've realized that if I don't take care of myself and set those healthy boundaries for myself, I can't show up in the ways that I want to for the people around me that I care about. And I really do attribute part of it to growing up these last few years and even hearing the conversations on the podcast, hearing what other women had to say, and then thinking about how those apply within my own life. I just feel a lot more confident in my own ability, not only to set, but communicate boundaries. And I discussed in our past conversations my inexperience in relationships and those people pleasing tendencies kind of led me to a place where I felt like I had to agree to everything that everybody threw at me, even if I felt uncomfortable with something or I didn't really have the capacity for it. And there were plenty of times where almost immediately after agreeing to something, I would regret it because I wouldn't give myself the time to take some distance and think about it. And I felt like, just like with social media, like that instantaneousness, I felt like I owe everybody a response right away. And I couldn't, be like, let me get back to you on that and think and see if that fits into my schedule. And I think that's something that I've definitely gotten a lot better at now. And even thinking of the example, like working two jobs like I do, being a pre-K teacher and also doing online remote social media stuff, it can be a lot to balance. And during the new year, when you kind of gave us an opportunity to reflect on our hours and all the exciting things that we added to the network, like the book and the online course and the public speaking, all the things that hadn't been there from the start, and that we were really growing the network and how that affected the work that we do. You really gave us a place to feel like we could communicate with you about what we needed and, finding that balance between those two jobs. And it really is a testament to the community that you create, because I feel like I felt so comfortable coming to you and discussing those boundaries and the time that I could commit to certain tasks. And yeah, I wouldn't have felt like I could communicate that in some of my past roles or situations.
Well, thank you for that. That means a lot to me. And it also, we have created a continuity here that has allowed us to do. You and Jess have been with me for 4.5 of the 5 years. Rio has been with me for 3.5 of the 5 years. And the people, Abby and Valencia, big shout out to Abby Bacale and Valencia San Luis, who started this whole thing with me 2 years ago. And I always understood that this was a place to get your feet wet and to find yourself, get that experience, and move on. And so I was always like, oh my gosh, I'm going to have this rotating door. But you and Jess and Rio have continued to do things, but you've stayed here. And because I'm very mindful of bringing people into the network and on the staff that know what we do, believe in it, understand it. And you all do, you embrace it, you embody it. You've been able to grow up through your 20s with it. And I think that is such an important message to get out there too, is that this is for anyone, any age that is ready to come home to themselves and live from who they were authentically created to be. Thank you so much. I love you so much. And I appreciate you so much. And you've got other things to do today, so I'm going to let you go. But any last thoughts you want to share before you take off today?
So just thinking about what feel means to me as well. I know that was like the other part of the question, and I kind of went off on a bit of a longer part about the boundaries and everything. But I really think that the message that is shared throughout our entire network is really about taking the pieces of you and those different emotions, those different parts that make you who you are, and not labeling them as one thing, not just saying something's bad or good, but kind of learning to love all the pieces, even if they are a little bit, more negative. Like in my life, I've had times where I felt more self-conscious, like somebody's, says that I'm a bitch or something like that. And I can acknowledge at times I can be sarcastic, I can be blunt, things like that. But instead of taking it at face value and saying like, this is something negative, this is who I am, this defines me as a person, it's taking a step back and realizing that every piece of you, no matter if it's labeled as positive or negative, is something that's part of you and that is a piece of who you are. It's not the whole of who you are. And I think it's
Mm,
important that even those negative traits have their place. Like if somebody
yeah.
pushes back against your boundaries or tries to put you into a situation that you're not comfortable with and is trying to walk all over you, and you voice that and you know, kind of push back on that, and that makes you a bitch or that makes you blunt or that makes you whatever it might be, then so be it. And there are plenty of other traits. You know, you can be kind, you can be caring, you can be loyal, and you can be those things. And you're
Yeah.
not defined by one single trait or label. Even the bad ones, and I put it in quotes because they all have their place. And
Yeah.
the sooner that you kind of learn to love those things about yourself, you can kind of see it in others. And
Mhm.
it just helps with the acceptance of yourself and of the people around you and creates a much more positive community.
Yeah. Oh, that was such a good reflection. Thank you so much for that. All right. Thank you so much for joining me today. I will see you soon. I get the benefit of getting to have you on my team, but thank you for what you bring to this network. I can't imagine doing this without you. Thank you for always being willing to jump in and try new things with me. And thank you for sharing your thoughts on your time here and your reflections on Feel.
And thank you for, you know, creating such a wonderful space for us. And I'm so glad to be part of such an amazing team and to have gotten to reflect with you today. So have a good one,
All right.
Melissa.
You too, Charlotte. See you soon.
Bye.
Bye. Okay, thank you so much to Charlotte. I love her to death. She's one of my yeah, I'm very biased about my team, I know, but I really can't imagine doing this without them. And what I she mentioned layers, so that was so beautiful because what I love is that every guest has added another layer to this conversation, another thing to consider, another thing to think about, another thing to be curious about. And I talk a lot about curiosity versus judgment a lot. And that leads us to our next guest, Lisa. She top episode from season 7, Embracing Accountability and Healthy Relationships. I'm going to bring her on the stage now. Lisa, welcome and thank you for joining me.
Melissa, thank you. We didn't get to meet in person last time, so it's
I
so
know.
great to put a face to the voice and to connect with you. And congratulations. This is really,
Oh,
I'm just sitting here. I came at the very start and I've been listening, and what an accomplishment. And you've
I,
really created something amazing.
Well, thank you. And it's because of guests like you that I'm able to do that. I mean, I think this embodies you and Charlotte and these people I'm bringing on today. This embodies what I wanted to start. Let's get the conversations going and
Yeah.
talk about the things that get in the way of us living our healthiest, most authentic life. You help women with relationships and those healthy relationships and how to prepare yourself to be healthy so you can receive and really enjoy the beauty of what's possible in a healthy coupled relationship. As you think about, our time together and reflecting since then, what still stands out to you about our conversation and what you know about these conversations that you have today? And what have you learned since then?
Well, what stood out, especially from the beginning when you were talking, is that one of the big pieces of the work you do is emotional wellness. And that is my course, my program. The work I do is called Emotionally Naked Dating. And so I help women get emotionally naked, share their truest and most authentic self with a man. We often, use other means of connecting, which are not very healthy, and they tend not to lead us to that deep emotional connection that we're longing for with a partner. And so that really jumped out at me when you were talking, because I think it's the heart and soul of what's missing a lot of times when we're talking about dating and finding the right partner, is focusing on that emotional piece.
Yeah, absolutely. What have you learned since our conversation? I mean, you're a curiosity person, and so you're always learning and growing. What have you learned since then?
Well, I've learned, I watch the dating landscape I watch it as closely as anyone. I've been doing this for over 25 years now. And I really have to say that I've seen the conversation around dating and finding love and all. I see so much on social media and in the media about how much harder, how difficult this is all getting, and that online dating and that the apps and all are making it harder and harder, texting and all. I don't believe that. I think finding
Mm.
your true partner has always been challenging. We can blame a million things. And it is really my mission right now to say to people, look, this is a tool. These are tools. They are, when you know how to use tools correctly, they can always work for you. But if you buy into it's harder, it's not going to happen, and you reinforce all those negative beliefs, that isn't good for your emotional wellness. And it's not the way to approach anything. I think 2 million, over 2 million couples got married last year in the US alone. That's 4 million people who found their person. So, this is happening. Don't buy into the beliefs that it can't. And so I give people hope. I show them a different way. My clients meet their people online and offline in the wild and, online as well. But you've got to have a positive dialogue around this.
Yeah.
And when you do, you can create anything you want in this life,
Yeah.
especially love. And I've been with the love of my life for 25 years. And I have to say, I found him when I was 41 after a long search. But I think it's some of the most beautiful, powerful work we do in this lifetime. So that's what I keep coming back to, Melissa.
I love that. I love that. And it's remained true. I mean, so when you think about it, what does feel finding empowerment, embracing layers mean to you today in this season of life you're in?
Today, well, as I said, I think it's embracing all, like Charlotte said, it's bringing everything into the conversation. It's not, when I work with women, in fact, I'm getting ready to do a free webinar next week. And part of this comes from my course where we look at the two voices in your head, the frenemy and what I call the naked dater. Your frenemy, as Charlotte so well described, is that part of you that self-sabotages, that inner voice that really takes you down. But that's a layer of yourself you have to embrace. Fighting it doesn't do anything, right? It's the fight, the battle is what really takes you down. It's learning how to say, okay, frenemy, I hear you, I get you, I know you're trying to help, and then learning how to develop your relationship with what I call your naked dater, which is the part of you that is loving and kind and compassionate, forgiving, grateful, all of these beautiful spiritual qualities. And I have to say, nothing will bring this up more than dating.
No kidding. What a mirror that is.
Yes. If you ever, Melissa, if you ever want to see your frenemy in action, no matter how, who was it? Ram Dass said, if you want to see how evolved you really are, go home for the holidays. Well, I feel like if you ever want to see how evolved you are, get online and start looking through profiles
Oh
because your
my gosh.
frenemy will have a field day. But it's learning, right, how to sit
Yeah.
there and say, okay, frenemy, I get it. These aren't the men that you were hoping to see, but hey, there's a couple of really good guys here. You know, there's a few good ones. Let's let the other ones go, and let's look at these couple of really nice guys that might have some potential. So it's learning how to navigate all of those layers and
Yes.
embrace them all. Like, God, I'm sick. I'm going to be 65 in a month. And I have to say, that, it took me years. I mean, Charlotte's so freaking young, man.
I
I
know.
wish I had
She's
had the
amazing.
Feel podcast and that kind of self-awareness at her age. What we wouldn't have given, right? But
Absolutely.
you know, when you start embracing those layers and you really allow yourself to be human and real, I can be a total bitch. I don't mean to. I'm a coach, and sometimes my clients are doing stuff and I'm rolling my eyes inwardly and going, girl, we have some work to do. But you
Yeah.
you just learn how to be with yourself and love the layers, as you said. So I love what you're doing. I want to go explore more about your work, and I hope we can connect and have more contact going forward. I really see what you're up to, and I am really inspired and excited by it. I'm sure everybody listening today is.
Oh, thank you so much, Lisa. I appreciate you joining me today. I appreciate your
Oh,
reflections. I appreciate how you show up in the world. I talk all the time of
thank
like,
you.
we all need to be doing our part in our lane. And there's different ways. Different women are going to connect with us in different ways. And we're not
Yeah.
all going to be for everybody, but all of us can reach somebody. And I think that's what's so important here is we show up, there's room for all of us, we embrace all of it, we invite everybody in, and let's, okay, how are we going to, as a community, support each other, support ourselves, and support the other women out there? How many more people can we get this message out to? And you are a part of that, so thank you so much.
Oh, well, thank you, Melissa, and good luck with everything today and all the days ahead.
Okay, all right, and we will talk soon.
Okay.
All right, take
Thanks
good
for
care.
having me on. You
You
too,
bet.
honey. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right. Thank you so much to Lisa Shield for joining me today. It's such a great reminder when I go back and visit with these guests. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's why I wanted to have them. They're so incredible and it's so fun to reconnect with them. I thought it would be fun to share something here in between guests. We've got some more coming, but I read some highlights earlier from our 5-year anniversary letter and the milestones and kind of a timeline, a calendar, so to speak. But what that doesn't capture is what has happened in each of you as you've become part of this community, as you've joined this network. I've got people listening today. I want to say thank you to Grishma Shah for being on here. We've got other people that have joined and commented, somebody cheering on Charlotte. Thank you so much. You all mean so much to me. I'm so thankful to have you have joined here on this place and space. And one of the things that I was reflecting on as I was going through comments and emails and messages as I was putting together the material, and we were reflecting on the newsletter and what to put in it, when the episodes to highlight, and I came across some messages, and I'm going to share a few of those with you because this is why we do what we do. And this one's from a friend who had just come on with me, and she's been on panels with me. She's been a guest, and she said, "Hey, gorgeous, I just wanted to reach out to thank you for being so amazing. Every time we chat, a panel, podcast, social media, I feel so empowered, and your light brings out the best in me. Thank you for being such a beautiful soul and empowering so many women. I see you, Melissa, and I'm so grateful for you. Have a beautiful rest of your week." My heart, when I read that meant everything. I was just like, because this is work that, sometimes I do things in person, and I'm going to have a great opportunity in August to share my local community with you, more on that to come. But a lot of what I do is online and virtual, and you don't always know for sure who you're reaching or if it's connecting or not. So getting these messages is so affirming, and it's also a reminder that I'm in the right space doing what I was meant to do. Because I wake up every morning and I think, do I feel like this is still what I'm supposed to be doing? And the answer is yes. And these messages just affirm that. Another message is, Melissa Crook brings honesty, compassion, and hope to a conversation that so many women need to hear. Her willingness to speak openly about anxiety, healing, boundaries, and self-worth reminds us that choosing ourselves isn't selfish. It's one of the most loving decisions we can make. Oh, Love that so much. I love that that resonated. Another one says, Melissa, what makes your work so meaningful is your willingness to transform personal pain into a place of healing for others. You create the kind of safe, compassionate space where women feel permission to stop pretending, embrace every part of themselves, and discover that true strength begins with honesty and self-compassion. Thank you so much for that. That, again, those messages mean the world to me. And I got a couple more here. Always love getting together with Melissa. It is such a safe place for women to share and talk about whatever season they are in. Her panel and podcasts are always wonderful opportunities as well for coming together and sharing life with all its messy middles. Melissa is genuine and real, relating on point every time with reflections that hit the nail on the head. I hope to join her for panels for years to come. Thank you so much for that. And then one last one here, and this really, this hit me deeply. My conversation with Melissa on Feel was one of the most raw and authentic conversations I've had. She has the rare gift of creating a space where you feel safe enough to go deep, really deep, without ever feeling pushed. We talked about empowerment, boundaries, and what it truly means to live authentically. And the whole thing felt less like an interview and more like two women having the kind of real talk we all need more of. If you're a woman navigating people pleasing, codependency, or just learning how to say no without guilt, Melissa and the Feel framework will meet you exactly where you are. Her show isn't just empowering, her resources are healing, and I'm so grateful to have shared this conversation with her. Thank you all so much. Those conversations, when we ask for your comments, when we ask for your feedback, we're not kidding, because we want to know if we're hitting the mark. We need to know if you're hearing what it is you need to hear, or if there's some place we're missing it. So those are great ones, but if you have other reflections, share them with us. We're here to help you embrace your feel-fueled life and really live from a place of coming home to yourself. But I want to thank everyone who shared and everyone who has shared. There's not time to share all the comments, but I wanted to share a few of those reflections with you because it's been so helpful and so encouraging and reminding us of why we do what we do. All right, it's time for another guest here. Here in a moment, I'm going to bring on Julie Barth. She is the guest from our top season 9 episode, Breaking Generational Trauma, Survivor's Guilt, and Emotional Healing. I'm going to put the link to that conversation here in the chat right now. And then I am going to add Julie to the stage. There she is. Hello, Julie.
Hi, how are you, Melissa? It's good to see you.
Oh, it's good to see you too. And thank you for joining me. Julie has one of the busiest lives you will ever run across in your life. Like, this woman is doing all the things. And on top of that, balancing a new full-time job. And she still found the time and space to join me for a few moments today. So thank you so much for taking this opportunity. All right. I have a couple of questions for you. When you think back to our conversation, what still stands out to you, and what have you learned since
then? I'm not really sure, to be honest with you. I think a lot of it revolves around, like, I think a couple of times you just asked me, like, and something I've been struggling with lately, I suppose, is like, what do you do for yourself? That's one thing that I've really, through all these experiences of podcasting, you go on, you tell your story, and then someone asks you a question, you're just kind of like, huh. So I think that's been one.
That's why we have the framework. It's because we have to keep asking ourselves.
Yeah. I mean, because all the things that I say I do for myself, really, when I want to analyze them, they're for someone else. But I think in there lies the true spirit of a woman, is like, the things that you do for yourself are really things that you're doing for other people that makes you feel like you're checking things off. So sometimes that distinction is really hard, because sometimes you don't even like find a space for you. You're more like a conduit to everything else. So
yeah. And I think, more than anything, I mean, you're in the thick of it. You're raising kids. You're doing this as a single mom. You're carrying the load of full-time work. You're also laying the groundwork for helping other women and overcoming and having the resources they need to be successful and to fill their cups. So you're doing a lot. And we talk a lot about the fact that in order to operate from a filled cup, you've got to take time to fill your cup. You're also doing work that is, I think, in so many ways important to you because you realized that weren't resources that you needed then. And so you're like, you were doing what so many women do, is like, you become the resource that you wish you had in the time. How is that going?
It's going slow.
Yeah.
Apparently people don't want to just give you money. I don't understand it, but
I hear you on that. I hear you.
Yeah.
It's like, and I think that's another thing too, that it can be tricky when we're doing this work we love. It's okay that it's to ask people to pay you for it. It is something we love and passionate, and it's also work. And I think that's still work we have to do in the women's space, is that we don't ask each other to give away our work for free, that we support each other and respect each other. And so I think these are the conversations we need to continue having. As you do this. You've started a new job too. So that can be a hard place to like, okay, now I've got this new job. Where does all this work while I'm trying to build this other thing that still provide for my family?
Yeah, that's a hard thing to do. I think we can all relate to, things that we want to do, but they always get back on the back burner because you have to attend to the things that actually will, monetarily benefit you, because you got to pay your own bills first. But, in saying that, my passion is really in the charity and all of that, but it makes me sad. But at the same time, I get it that, you have to switch gears. You have to kind of, and sometimes I'm trying very hard not to lose the focus of, okay, I have these extra hours to work on, but I think that we're all so spent, and not in a bad way, spent, I think has like a negative connotation. I love what I do. I don't mind, I can be on the computer and get lost for 80 hours, and I like helping people too. So it's all just like a prioritization game, and it all seems like a priority. So So as you know.
I do. I know. And I appreciate you sharing that with us, because I think that's where so many of us come from. When you think about finding empowerment, embracing layers, what does that mean to you today?
I think for the first time in a very long time, being that I've not been really, and I put this in quotations, working. I kind of retired a couple of years ago, and I almost came off the benches, because I think that all of the stuff that I've been saying, the podcast that I've been doing for like a year and a half, like they've allowed me to understand myself a little bit better and recognize that I have value. I think that's especially when you're older and you're entering the workforce, and it's kind of like you feel as if technology has grown and you're just on the sidelines, like I can't keep up. And I think I had that impression of myself for 2 years, and getting back into it. I have all these young kids that want jobs, and they're coming to me, and I love their expertise. And I've recognized that there really is no substitute for maturity, for responsibility, for, all that other stuff you can learn. Thank God from ChatGPT, because he's made me, and I call him he, I don't know why. But he's allowed me to do things that, I would have been flustered by, like, just website stuff where I'm like, I can actually do it. So that feeling of, I can actually do it is finally starting to set in. And, for anyone who's been in a horrible relationship or just stuck in something where they're told day and day, you're stupid, or you're incapable, you can't do it without me. Embracing all of those notions and trying to recreate the ones that I had before that terrible relationship. It's almost like they're merging. And now I'm beginning to remember, like, no, I'm not stupid. And yes, I have things to give. And it's just a really nice exploration of finding myself again, in my later years, and remembering, the good things about me in my younger years and trying to incorporate those, but just letting go of a lot of the notions that I built over the past decade that were just very, not conducive. So
Yeah. Yeah. Charlotte talked about this earlier when I had her on is realizing that none of those singular things make an identity or define you, and being able to unpack the truth versus what's not true is and that's been such a big part of your journey. I mean, every time I go, because I was going back and listening to these episodes, and I'm like, what you have been through, I think you're a marvel. I mean, honestly, because you've seen all these different seasons. I mean, just the title itself, and I think that's part of the reason it's so popular, is people are like, oh my gosh. I mean, it's breaking generational trauma, survivor's guilt, and emotional healing. I mean, I think you talk so openly about the fact that when you lost the love of your life, very tragically, at too young of an age, there was so much going on with that beside you, and the vulnerability that creates. And just the realization for us to remember there are people out there waiting to prey on you when you're that vulnerable, and your willingness to talk about that and share that, I think, is so important for us to remember, and staying present with ourselves and being mindful and asking ourselves those questions. Talk more about the resources that your nonprofit offers. I think this is we talked about it when we recorded, and that link is in here, but I wanted to give you a chance to highlight it again, because so much of your experience has created what it is that is available there today.
Well, thank you. And that's also a work in progress, which, I think anytime you get into something the smartest way I could have, helped fast to notice what we're doing. But as I got into it, I recognize that there's a better way. There's so many charities out there, and they're willing to give you resources and networking. But finding them is always the hard part of it. So we've been working on the back end, and I've been very blessed to have the University of South Carolina, their entire IT department has helped me build. We're in the process still of building databases of all the charities that are out there, because there are 34,000 charities in South Carolina alone.
Just South Carolina. Wow.
In South Carolina. Yeah. And so, when you think about that, 34,000, like, who could even,
It's hard to even know where to begin.
It is. And, some of them are still working. Some of them aren't. Some of them are tax shelters. Like, you just, who knows? So that's where we started. We were like, let's go back to the start. These charities need to find people. The people need to find charities. So the crux of what we're working on right now, I like to say we're rolling it out in stages. We are trying to not put any more resources into the admin of what someone else has already created. So we're trying to match people with what they need. So that's, if you come to us, like I said, we're compiling just for South Carolina right now, but hopefully, extrapolating. Where you come to us, you can fill out a page that lists, all your qualifiers, age, marital status. And then when you give that to us, what we can do is sort and say, you're eligible for this one, you're not eligible for that one. And we pre-vet it. So we're not just sending you links, because, I've been on those websites where you can go on and it'll say like, oh, check out all the funding. And they lead you on all these things. And then you get to the end and they give you like 3 places, and you open them up and they don't even exist. So we're so
frustrating.
It is. Because realistically in your head, when you get into these situations, there's probably somebody out there. It's just when Colin was really sick, when Tatum was really sick, like, I had this phrase, which probably sounds stupid to everybody else, but I used to say, it's like, we just have to find the wizard. There's always somebody, there's a gatekeeper, there's a wizard, there's somebody who has that information that you need. And we're trying to be that wizard, because that's what you need. You need somebody to hold your hand, guide you, because, in these situations, you don't have time to research. And again, if we want to go back to where do you spend your time? Well, of course, I'm not going to sit here 10 hours and trying to find a service that may or may not help me if I'm doing data entry, whatever my job is, like, I can't take time away from that's paying me to find what I need. And we've all been in that situation. Like, do we go with the big hope that something's going to pan out, or do we just put our nose to the grindstone and get paid $10 an hour? Well, of course you go with the $10, because you got people relying on you. So that's really what we're trying to bridge as an organization, to step in, give people actually what they need rather than a whole bunch of spam that they don't. And really, I think the crux of it is knowing that somebody cares. Like I
Mm.
said, I'm the one that mans it. So when people reach out to me, I'm always like, I don't know if I can help you. I can give you names. But the most thing I could do for you is just let you know you're not alone, because I think that is what everyone needs to hear.
Yeah. That in itself is very powerful when you can remove the loneliness and isolation, because so many times women that are in these situations where they need these resources are feeling very isolated. They're
Yeah.
feeling like no one will understand. They're feeling fear, shame, scared. They're all these things. For someone to simply say, you're not alone. I've got you. We're going to get you connected. You're not going to have to go through all the fluff of the 5 million websites to figure out what's for you. We can tell you that with this questionnaire. And if it doesn't work, get back to us. But you're not alone here. And we're going to see you through this. That, you don't know the difference that can make in somebody's day.
I do. Or, and I've helped, maybe a handful of women. I will say, there's part of me that I give them information, then I just, like, I wish I could do something. And I feel like I haven't, but then in a couple of weeks, like I just had this one woman reach out to me, and honestly, I didn't do anything besides they could come to my house. Let's talk about it. We sat for coffee, and I just kept tabs on her. I wasn't able to help her with any resources. I did help her with a couple, hacks, that I do have. But she reached out to me a couple months ago, and she said, oh, my friend's going through this, you were such an influence. And I was like, really? Because I felt like I hadn't done it. I hadn't given her any money. I hadn't like hooked her up with somebody who could give her money. But here I was, she was thanking me and saying that I had made a difference. And, you just don't know how you affect other people. And I think that's something we all need to keep in mind. Like whether we're having a good day or a bad day, like your bad day reflects, plays into other people's bad days in the same respect that your good days do. And I'm not suggesting you should go around being the beacon of sunshine. But the way that we all affect one another, and carelessly so, sometimes mindful, but it's just amazing how we're so connected and we don't even know how we're affecting just in our energies, people around us.
Yeah, that's such a good point. And I go back to what I say all the time is if each of us does that thing that we feel called to, we can make a difference. And it's showing up every day. And so give me again, and it's on our resources page, but I don't have it in front of me, the name of the website. I'm going to put that in our chat here.
Sure. It's C as in, it's Colin James Barth Outreach. So you could either type in Colin James Barth or CJBOutreach.org. Sorry. CJBOutreach.org. Should have been easier.
CJBOutreach.org. And Colin James is your husband that you lost, correct?
Correct. Yes.
Yes. And what, man, whatever there is above, whether it's heaven or what, how proud he is to see you persisting and being this resource for people. I think he's going to give you a big hug someday. And loving you from afar. Julie, thank you so much for being with me. Thank you for the way you show up in the world. I'm so thankful our paths have crossed. I appreciate you so much. Any last thoughts you'd like to share with our listeners before you take off today?
I think that when we talked about, you said something about people don't know where to go. I find myself in a situation where I just shut people out. When bad things happen to you, I think you just you don't even want to talk to people because you're like, you won't even understand. And when they try and help, you're like, ugh, I've already heard that. So you just stop talking in general. So for people out there, people do want to hear. They care about you. If they're not calling, it's because they don't know how to help. And sometimes you have to force yourself to reconnect and not put your baggage on other people and assume they don't like you or don't want to be around you. Sometimes it's just hard to be around some people and it's nothing about you. It's just your situation. So don't isolate. Don't stop talking to people. Don't take things personally because you're reading it from a space of how you feel about yourself. So just remember that your feelings are not theirs.
Yeah, absolutely. Such a good reminder. Julie Barth, thank you so much for joining me today. Take good care of yourself. I look forward to staying in contact with you and watching this grow. And just thank you so much.
No problem. Thanks for having me. Have a good afternoon.
You bet. You too. Take care.
You too.
All
Bye-bye.
right. Bye-bye. All right, that was Julie Barth. That was our top season 9 episode guest. It's linked in there. Check out what she's doing too. Boy, she's really bridging a gap and trying to simplify things for women. I think this is so important. Before we bring on our next guest, we're going to have our guest from our top episode from season 10 to date. We are still in season 10. So this was a little tricky for us to figure out, but we had some clear 2 or 3 that were clearly in the lead, and it came down to the wire where we determined which one was in the lead to date. And so we're going to have Irina Helm join us here shortly to talk about her episode. It just released recently. I actually met Irina in the spring, in May of 2025, at a conference that I was speaking at down in Thousand Oaks, California. I mentioned our friend Lori Carice earlier, who invited me to be part of the 2024 radio show. She was also hosting this conference and asked me to come down and speak. And I had a table next to Irina and her business partner, Angela Iacobellis, who's also been a guest with us on the podcast. So many of these connections I make, many of them are through Podmatch, but also many of them are through women that I meet at these different events that I go to and speak at, or where I live locally, or other guests connect me with them and like, hey, you really need to talk to so-and-so. So it's really been a fascinating, fun way to connect with women from literally all over the world. We literally have a global audience. I hosted a panel last week where we had people from Canada, from France, from Australia, and from the East Coast. I can't remember where. Maybe that was Florida. I'm not sure. And then myself. And it was like, and I had to the biggest challenge in all of this sometimes is doing the time zone juggle. How can I find a time where all of these women can join me for these conversations, or all of these women can be part of these webinars or these speaking opportunities? And so it's been such a blessing to get to do that, but also as I can tell you a lot about time zones now that I didn't know anything about a few years ago. But before Irina joins us, I want to go back to our newsletter and share a few more highlights. So we're bringing on guests from our past top episodes. Not all of them can join us today. So I want to share what some of the other episodes are. So for season 2, Jamie Wheeler couldn't join us today, but season 2's top episode is A Life of Growth and Care, Self-Worth Boundaries, and Purposeful Living with Jamie Wheeler. If you go to embracinglayers.com, go to the episodes page and go to season 2, you can find that conversation. We visited with Charlotte earlier on the season 3 episode. My staff members, Jessica Garrison and former staff member Michaela Shirley, also joined me for that conversation, and that's linked in the chat. For the season 1 episode, it's my family. It's Meet the Crooks. So I'm representing that today. I'm hopeful that another member can possibly join me towards the end of the conversation today for that. But that's going to depend on some meeting times and if they get out in time and another one doesn't start. So we're still holding on to that. Meet the Crooks is, for a long time, was our top episode, period. And it's still within our top 5. People love meeting the family. And I thought that was important starting this out, that people understood that this wasn't just something I figured out on my own. I figured it out by watching my daughters, by watching my husband, by learning from the people they learned from. Megan Locklear, who was a guest in season 2 or 3. I'm losing track now. The 10 seasons, but she was a mentor to my daughters. And a lot of these things we talk about with healthy boundaries and communication came from what they learned from Megan and what I learned from them. And so she is an integral part of this being here today. So I wanted people to hear and see that this is a community thing that I was able to create with a lot of voices and input from my inner circle with people I loved and trusted. And so that doing that episode, and there's 2 parts to it. Part 2 is also very popular. And then in season 4, our good friend Valerie Rivera, who has also come back and been a guest with us recently in season 9, she's been with us twice now. Fantastic. My husband actually knew her first and suggested her to me a few years back saying, you should really talk to Valerie Rivera. I think she'd be a great voice for this. So I'm getting input from all kinds of great voices in my life, men and women. She is our top episode from season 4, Valerie's first episode with us, Celebrate Yourself, Healing Childhood Trauma and Reclaiming Your Power. You will hear me quote something from this episode very often that Valerie shared. That is a principle I live by. It's one of the most important things I ever heard said, and it just connected with me. And she said, whatever it is you say yes to, you're saying no to something else. Make sure you're okay with that thing that you're saying no to. That is a great question to ask yourself as you're considering healthy boundaries and what you say yes and no to. I have quoted her a zillion times on here. And so it's for good reason that episode is our top episode from season 4. In season 5, our top episode is with my friend Shaquanda Reese. She is the proud owner of Burst Beans Coffee. I've been celebrating her a lot lately because she's opening a brick and mortar in New Jersey. More to come on that. She's been doing this online for several years now, and the brick and mortar is coming to life. And I seriously am thinking about making a trip to the East Coast just to be able to experience that with her. So she is our top episode from season 5, Making Space for Women to Live Unapologetically with Intention with Shaquanda Reese. And then our top episode from season 6 is with Bethany Corbin, Femtech and What Women Need to Know, redefining women's health with Bethany Corbin. Make sure you check that out. So good, so much important, really helps inform the kinds of questions you should be asking when you visit your healthcare practitioner. There's resources out there that Femtech is providing that sometimes our doctor's offices don't even know about yet because of the lack of communication happening between the technology and the medical spaces, and Bethany's here to bridge that gap. Listen to that episode, follow what she's doing, really powerful work there. Well, it is now time to bring on our next guest. Irina Helm is here with me. Hello, Irina.
Hello, Melissa.
I'm so happy to have you here. Oh my gosh. So Irina is I was sharing with people earlier how we met in Thousand Oaks a little over a year ago, and how I've been able to have both you and Angela on here, and how your episode is the front runner. It is the lead one in season 10 right now. And I'm not surprised by that at all. You have such a compelling story. I mean, I think it's just amazing. What you've been through, what you've experienced, all the things you've learned from that. Your episode's called Financial Empowerment for Women, Build Confidence, Master Your Money Mindset, and Redefine Wealth. But your story is so much more than that. I'm going to put this in the chat so people can listen to it. Listen to this story. Irina has had a rich, full, complex, layered life. It's led her to many corners of the earth, and it's taught her so many valuable lessons. Irina, when you think about it, just reflecting on our conversation together, tell me what sticks out to you in the time that we've known each other.
From the time we talked, there was so much more that came after. It was just the beginning of something that I've envisioned for so long. I just had bought my little house in a totally different area, and I thought I'm changing my circumstances, but I actually changed myself. That was just the beginning of a journey that I went through till today, which is very interesting.
Yeah, it is. That had just started. It was like, it's up in the mountains somewhere, isn't it?
Yes, it's a rural area. I'm surrounded by ranches and farms, horses, llamas, chickens. I started growing my own garden now, so I have some vegetables from my own garden that I'm eating. So,
oh my gosh!
But I'm still doing financial, so that's very interesting. This mixture of, let's say, high tech or computers, and then the life that I have out here, which is, I love it. I love it.
Yeah, you get to like explore multiple layers in your life and multiple things that represent who you are, which goes in line with there's so many pieces and parts to our story, and we're not
Yeah.
just one thing.
Yes, totally.
Yeah.
We are just something that is evolving all the time. That's how I see ourselves. It's something that is
Yeah.
never ending. It's a change, ongoing change.
So what's the biggest thing, since you've done this, what's the biggest thing you've learned about yourself? Was there any surprises in here?
Surprises. Yes, I think yes, because sometimes we get stuck into something, and sometimes we feel sorry, or we feel even that we're kind of victims a little bit. Why does it happen to me? Those things. And I think it's important to take everything that happens to us and saying, okay, what is the opportunity here to understand? What is there? What do I have to learn here? And I think that's what I was going through with myself here. So just distancing myself from a situation and starting over, and then starting looking into, okay, what is going on? Who are you? What do you need? Just coming back to yourself. And I think it's a very important thing, to be close to your feelings. And that's where we go to. What is the feel? The feel is always feeling yourself, I think. It's really learning to listen to yourself. Listen to what you feel, what's going on, and not looking for answers outside. There's nothing outside.
There is nothing. Yes. Trusting that inner voice, trusting that you know yourself better than anybody else. And you were able to stay curious about these things that were coming up rather than judgmental or harsh on yourself. And I think that's key too.
It is a total key to be gentle to yourself, to understand that you will never be perfect. You will be always perfectly imperfect.
Absolutely.
But I think it's important to listen to yourself, to be gentle to yourself. And that's the beginning of a lot of things, I think, to listen to what you need, and to take time, not to jump, not to react right away, to be aware of something, and sometimes just saying, okay, what's going on? I don't feel comfortable. What's going on? Why don't I feel comfortable? And not right away to react to certain things.
Yeah, I think that, boy, you hit on something important there, because we feel uncomfortable and we want to fix it right away. And a lot of times we want to get rid of the feeling. And when it's an invitation to sit down and get curious about where that feeling's coming from, so we actually can address the core of the issue and not just throw a Band-Aid on it and have it come up later.
And also regarding to others, you don't have to right away jump and help others. And it's not about being a bad person. It's about having the compassion and also the trust in something bigger, that every person needs to go through certain things to get somewhere. So if it's regarding our children or our partners, or, the first thing is always to, oh my God, they need help. No, just breathe deep. Same here. Just wait a minute. They have their journey, so just let them.
Yes, absolutely. We sometimes we don't empower people because we're enabling them to continue to look for us for the support, and we're not helping them to figure it out how themselves and to take care of themselves.
Yes, so I think that's the biggest understanding maybe that I came to since I'm here. So it's already, we talked like it's not a year ago, but it's quite a while ago.
It
is.
I
definitely had a journey, and I cannot say I'm finished. I'm just on the way. Like everyone else. We're just on the way somewhere.
Yes, on the way. That's such a great way to put that. And that's such a great way to view life. So when you think about finding empowerment, embracing layers, what does that mean to you today?
Yeah, I think feel is feeling yourself. Again, coming back to feeling yourself, being there first of all for yourself. I think that's so important. And I think we, especially as women, we're in a way also built a way like this from the nature, because we need to nurture, we need to give life. But also the society is a lot of times expecting that from us to, just to feel everyone else. But I do think we need to, first of all, feel ourselves. be
Yeah.
first of all good to ourselves, and then we can give more. If our cup is half full, there's nothing to share.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Irina. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank
I'm
you for
so
having
glad we met. Absolutely. Take good care of yourself. I can't wait to stay in touch and hear how this journey evolves as you continue to develop in this new space that you're living in. I love it so much. I love how you followed your heart to that. Take good care. And yeah, we'll talk soon.
We will, and I hope you will visit me here and we can have some vegetables from my garden.
Oh, I love that idea. That's such a good idea. And I'm actually going to be down in your neighborhood at the end of the month.
Please,
so I'll be in touch.
You have to.
Okay. All right. Take good care. Bye-bye. We'll talk soon.
Bye.
All right. That was Irina Helm, our friend from our top episode in this current season we're in right now. I'm seeing that my surprise guest has been able to join me. He's on the stage there in the waiting room. He also happens to be one of my favorite humans. Before we bring them on, I want to share a few reflections. I'm also going to ask you all that are listening, if you have a favorite moment, a favorite episode, something you've learned, a favorite guest, feel free to share that in the chat. If you're listening live in the chat, or if you listen to this recording later, share it with us. We'd love to hear from you. But Jessica Garrison, who is my writer and author, you see a lot of her work. She runs our Substack. She is the author of our book. She does all of our blogs, our newsletters. She's such a core piece, an important part. And she was also part of that top 3 episode with Charlotte and Michaela on the beauty privilege, but she shared some reflections with me. She couldn't join today. She's working, had her other job, but I wanted to share these with you. So she said, some of my favorite episodes include season 9 episodes. There's part 1 and part 2 with Zolal Habibi. Anything that Dr. Fanny Labelanger does. Dr. Fanny has been with us 2 times on the podcast, many times on the panels, as well as our 2024 radio show. And then Jenna Madden is one of Jessica's best friends from high school growing up, and she recommended Jenna to us. Jenna is a powerful mover and shaker in the LGBTQIA community, and she really loves how Zolal shed light on the conflict in Iran, in how so many people have been fighting for so long, and how women are on the front lines of this in a way that I don't think most people understand. So I highly recommend going back and listening to those episodes, but those are ones that really connected. She loves Dr. Fanny because she's such a delight to listen to anytime she's on. She loves that episode or panel. She's so intelligent and so caring. And I think she's a great resource for anyone. She also goes back to Jenna. I also love Jenna Madden's episode from season 4 because they're one of my friends from high school who still continues to do such good work in the LGBTQIA plus community. They are someone I look up to, even though I am older than them. And we need more people like Jenna out there in the world. I love what Jessica said about that. When we look up to people or look for mentors or people that inspire us, they don't have to be people that are older than us. We can learn from so much from those that are younger than us. I know that so well. My 3 staff members, all in their 20s. My 3 daughters, 2 20s, 1 early 30s. I learn from them all the time. So always remember that. Be open to that. I love that Jess brought that up. For Jessica, you heard Charlotte talking about the biggest lessons she's taken away from this time with us here at the Embracing Layers Network, both as a guest and a panelist and in doing her social media work. Jess also has some reflections and lessons. She's also in her 20s. And one of the greatest lessons she's learned over the years from the podcast is, she says, is to prioritize myself. It's my expectations, my layers, my life, and it's given me a new sense of freedom. I used to be a pathological people pleaser, and now I don't really care what people think because I know who I am deep down and I know my intentions. The Feel podcast has truly transformed my 20s and how I view life. I am so thankful. Thanks, Jess. I am so thankful for you. I literally could not do this without the work that you do, the heart that you have for it. So super thankful to Jess for sharing those. Share with us in the chat. We'd love to hear from you. We've heard from our friend Grishma Shah, Check out Grishma has been a panelist and a podcast guest with us. Love what she does in the world. She's got a book out there. I think she's working on another one. So check out what Grishma has. Thank you so much for commenting. All right, it is time to bring my favorite human onto the stage. Hello, Brady Crook.
Hello, Melissa Crook. How are you?
I'm good. Long time no see. I know. It's been a whole, 3 hours since you left the house this morning. Brady is here representing our top episode from season 1, Meet the Crooks. We kept that title really simple. It is what it is. And it's also one of our top 5 episodes of all time. That episode continues to have the continuity. It's kind of stood the test of time, even as we've added all these other episodes over season 5. So, Brady, why do you think that is?
Well, I think it was extremely authentic. I mean, we had the whole family there. You say I'm representing, but the daughters would represent much better. So I'll try and fill those shoes. But I felt like it was just a great back and forth and genuine conversation early. And as you are launching this, to have that conversation come from what really is the core, foundational piece of it, and why you launched this was your life experiences. And obviously, we've been blessed to be with you all these years, but the 4 of us helping you to launch it, I think it was just a good, genuine conversation back and forth.
Yeah, I think those are the conversations people yearn for. They yearn to have with each other. They yearn to have with their families. Women yearn to have them with each other. And that's the space I'm really working to create here. And I couldn't do this without you. Literally could not do this without you. This man has been behind me every single step of the way, every choice, every decision. It takes a lot to keep this going. And he continues to be one of my biggest believers and supporters. So I want to thank you and honor you for that and lift you up. We talk a lot about allies as women. And this guy's one of the allies that's out there, not only as my partner and my best friend and the great love of my life, but as a husband and a father to our daughters. He's one of the greatest girl dads you'll ever see. But you said something people used to say to you all the time when the girls were little. Oh gosh, are you going for a boy? And they just made this assumption because you were an athlete growing up and all these things that you must be yearning for that boy. And you always looked him straight in the eye and said, I'm doing great. I'm batting 1,000. And for those not familiar with baseball terms, that means you're getting a hit every time. You're knocking it out of the park every time. And you're that successful. And that has stayed with the girls over the years. That has meant so much to them. You were also raised by a very fierce, a woman before her time that really planted within you this understanding that those gender roles and who does what around the house and how you support each other, that nonsense wasn't going to happen under Calling Crooks watch. Talk to me about the impact that had on your ability to be the man you are today and supportive as you are across not just in our family life, but in your workspaces.
Yeah, well, it was a great way to grow up because it was different. I can't say that, all of my peers or classmates didn't have that growing up, but it was a shared marriage and relationship and responsibilities, both between dad and mom. And so that was a fantastic foundation to have me grounded in as I went forward. And, I think it's always incumbent on the next generation to do better than our parents. And so that's what we've tried to do. And it really resonated with me to, pour that way into my girls, our daughters, because the sky really is the limit and it doesn't matter. Gender piece. And I appreciate you bringing up the comment. I mean, I've said that our entire marriage and their whole lives, that I'm batting 1,000 for the first time in my life. I have just been extremely blessed and enjoyed the journey. I wouldn't trade my 3 daughters for any kind of other makeup for our family. It's just been remarkable. And I think it's also helped form what I've done career-wise as I've learned and grown and pushed myself and corrected myself where I've misstepped and all the rest. My leadership team at Fresno State is women. And that is very strategic and very intentional because of the varied voices we need at the table for any family or organization or nonprofit that you have. You need the varied voices, and if you're not willing to do that, then you're whatever you're pouring into your family or your organization is not going to reach its full potential. And so I've been very blessed to learn that lesson and hold on and enjoy being in a female dominated household because it's helped make me be a better person, a better leader, a better teammate, and all the rest. And hopefully the daughters think a good father.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, they do. I can vouch for that. When you think back to our conversation, I mean, it's been 5 years since we had that conversation, if you can believe it. What still stands out to you, and what have you learned since then?
Well, my answers may be different than the other guests you're going to have today because I've lived this every day with you since it launched. I think what stands out for me is that you had a passion. We did the dream wall, and you kept going, and you put it in place, and you launched it. And so that's the main thing that I think about from our original conversation, is that it is now out there in the world, and you've kept it going for 5 years. So kudos to you. I mean, you've grown this thing. You've had to reevaluate. You've had to pivot. You keep on to developing new aspects of it. I mean, to be at 5 years, that doesn't happen with podcasts and books and radio shows and everything that you've done. So the conversation piece is, we talked a little bit about it, was the genuineness of launching. But, one of the things I remember is that you were just getting your foundational questions and how you wanted to lead your podcasts and the conversations with your guests. And so to be the first or one of the first to go through that and help you hone that, I remember that quite a bit, and just thinking that this is going to be, something that you can really launch from as you put it into play. And, I don't know. I mean, how much time do we have from what have I learned since then? I mean, my goodness, having to come back and relearn at times, listening to your other episodes and just the conversations we have outside of your recordings and all the rest. It's a learning process every day, which I think is critical. I mean, if anybody's deciding that they don't need to learn anymore, that's probably not a good thing for that person or the people around them. So hopefully, I've stayed engaged, and I've supported you, and I've tried to learn from all the hundreds. I mean, how many conversations have you had now with these?
We're approaching 270 podcast episodes alone, and that doesn't even factor in the panels and the radio shows and the in-person speaking and workshops and the online course conversations, and I mean, on and on. I mean, so yeah, I mean, I think too, when I look back on it, and yeah, what is this? Is there anything? I mean, I'm surprised by all of it. You've seen me kind of go through each evolution. I'm like, well, I think we're in a new book now. No, I think that because I really went from a space of, I want to have conversations to, I want women to actually apply this to their lives. I don't just want this to be a conversation they listen to. I want this to be an invitation where they enter into the community and then start really applying this Feel framework and asking themselves these questions, Jay, in the ways that feel authentic to them. When you think about that and think about, what does Feel mean to you today?
Well, it means you're the heart and soul of this. I think back to the foundational stone, the impetus for this was, and you stayed true to it, it's been your North Star these 5 years, is that you want to help women not end up in the same place you were when you launched this. And you haven't deviated from that. So you've been evolving this entire time to say, but how do I help women even more? And you've evolved into a book. You've evolved into, trainings and conference pieces and book clubs and panels like you've talked about. You're always evolving because that North Star of yours is, what more can you do to help women deal with these things long before you figured out to deal with them. So that piece, that's what Feel means to me, is that while you continue to evolve, you're staying true to why you really launched this. And that's just really exciting for me to see that you've kept that foundational piece.
Well, I appreciate that. And I couldn't do it without you. Your encouragement means everything to me. You are welcome to stay on as I wrap it up, or I know you've got a 10:30 meeting. So I'm going to let you decide on that. But I'm going to share a few things as we wrap up today.
Yeah,
And
I love you, babe.
okay, I love you too. Thanks for joining.
Bye, babe.
Bye. Okay, he did have to jump up. I thought he might. That's my guy. That's my person. That's the voice in my ear telling me on those days that I'm tired and I'm not sure I'm reaching anybody, and I haven't read some of those good comments that I get in a while, that reminds me that I'm doing the work I was created to do, and what I was built for, and that it means something, and that it's reaching people. And within that, as I wrap up today, I've spent a lot of time reflecting, over these last few weeks, really these last couple of months, as we've prepared for this and rolled out memories and reflections over the past 10 seasons on our social media and our Substack and our website. 5 years ago, and I touched on this with Brady, and I've touched on it throughout, I wanted to start conversations. But today, it's so much more than that. I want to help women live differently because of those conversations. That's why we've created our Embracing a Feel-Fueled Life online courses. That's why we wrote a book, and we have book clubs, not only with our book, Embracing Layers Unapologetically, but also our other guest and past panelist books, and creating more conversations, more spaces. And if you missed a book club, those are archived on our website. Become a paid subscriber, which we'll talk about in a minute. Become one of our founding 500, and you can get access to all of those book clubs that have been recorded, both with our book as well as other books. And you can create your own community around those. Grab some women and go listen to those conversations that have been had together, and help them to be an impetus to drive your own conversations as you listen in and read these books and take in these conversations. It's just such a great gift. All the newsletters and the highlights that we've shared over the years, the resources, not only that we offer, but from our guests on our resources page, the community we're creating through our panel conversations, the community that we're creating on Substack. When I talk about this founding 500, yes, it is a benefit to get all those initial extra resources you get of archived conversations. Everything past 3 months old gets archived. You get access to all of it, whether it's blogs, newsletters, archived book clubs, archived conversations with authors, all these different things that we've offered you over the years, podcast conversations, the radio show. But it also creates a space for what I really want to see happening next, where weekly I'm hosting conversations on our Substack for our paid subscribers to come together and then really view it kind of like what we call on our panel show, our Together We Feel panel show, as the Come As You Are days, where you come as you are, you share where you are, you ask questions, you ask for support, you share what you've learned, you share what your exciting new projects are, these places that you can come, show up as you are safely. I want to create that space that we're creating on the panels on our Substack. And that's part of even more of where I see us going, is continuing these conversations and having you utilize these resources we've offered, so you can not only listen, but actively participate and embody what it is to live out feel. So that community that we're creating there, because information changes minds. It creates curiosity. It takes away the judgment and allows you to look at yourself through a lens of possibility and growth instead of fear. And we're creating a safe space for you to land with that here. Community changes lives. And so that is what's really inspired, and what we're continuing to do here is the invitation. People ask me all the time, Melissa, how can I support this work? And the truth is, I've stopped thinking about it as supporting my work, because it's about building our community. How can you support building our community? Right now, we have over 2,000 followers across all of our platforms. We have 110 subscribers on our Substack 9 of those are paid subscribers, another 198 followers. But we've got 2,000, followers throughout our different platforms. I would love to see, and I'm grateful for all of them. I want to stop and say I am incredibly grateful for every single one. This work doesn't happen, and we're not here today without any of it. But you've heard me talking about in recordings, and you've seen postings over the last week of what I'm calling our summer of feel, our 5 years of feel. And for the Substack, that means 500 women choosing themselves. And here's why. For just $5 a month or $50 a year, you're doing 2 things. First, you're making an intentional investment in yourself. Second, you're helping ensure these conversations continue for the thousands of women who need them, who are looking for that safe space to land. So I'm going to put this link in our chat right now where you can go to and become one of our founding 500 paid subscribers. This also, if we can get to that 500 point, gives us the resources we need to continue this work for the next year. And then, of course, we'll ask you to renew so we can keep continuing. But that when I bringing Brady on earlier, he has supported me through all of the financial pieces of this too. Totally honest, I have drained a lot of our financial resources keeping this going, and he's continued to support me in this because he knows how important these conversations are. Also, out of respect for his support and wanting to continue in this work, it is necessary and important that I am vocal about the fact that we do need financial support to continue. This Founding 500 is a simple way that so many of you can get involved in that. It's investing in yourself, it's investing in the community, and it's being able to be part of what we're creating there and what's more to come. We're also celebrating the 1-year anniversary of our Embracing a Feel-Fueled Life online course series. So if you've been thinking, I'm ready for more than just an inspiring, insightful conversation, I'm really ready to take action. I'm ready to see this put into play in my life. I'm ready for that transformation. These online courses are set up so well for that. We've got 3 of them. We've got an entry-level calendar cleanse for $47. We've got the essentials that embodies the full framework for $297. And we have the VIP version, which also invites me back to meet with you for an hour as you're going through the course to answer your questions for $400. But guess what? Now through August 31st, all 3 of those courses, 50% off. Whether you start with a calendar cleanse, you get 50% off of that $47. Whether you dive into the full course and decide to do that on your own or with some friends, and I really recommend that with these online courses. Get some friends, go in on it together, do it together. So diving into that full course, and rather than that $297, 50% off of that through August 31st. Or you choose the VIP experience where you get the whole thing, plus I get to come back and spend an hour with you. Instead of $400, 50% off, $200. Get some friends, get some girlfriends, invest in yourselves, invest in each other, take advantage of these. The promo codes are Cleanse 50, Essentials 50, and VIP 50. I'm going to put that all here in our chat, and it will also be in the show notes for this. But that's another way that you can really put this into action, put this into play, really, and invite other people into it. That's such an integral part of this conversation is to invite other people into it. And we want you all to do this on your own, on yourselves, but also together. I also want to thank my friend Tina Mystery. Tina Mystery is one of our paid Substack subscribers. She's not only a paid Substack subscriber, she's a founding subscriber. She did the $150 a year option. She's also a panelist on multiple panels over the last 2 years. She's a guest on my podcast. She is the definition of what it looks like to empower yourself and empower others in the work she does and the way she supports her community. She is one of the wonderful women I've met through my Women's Chamber of Commerce here in Fresno. And I'm so blessed to know her. And she says, congrats, Melissa. What an amazing accomplishment. Keep up this amazing work. Thank you for helping your audience realize the importance of their stories, no matter how big or small. Thank you. Thank you to you, my friend, for being an investor, for being a believer, for being a contributor. You are the embodiment of what it looks like to show up for yourself and other women unapologetically. So thankful for you. All right. So in this final close, I want to leave you with what has become the heart of everything we do here. And I've started even closing my episodes and panels with this because my friend Drea Ginto, another investor in what we do here, really helped me find the language for this last fall and really helped me bring it all together. And it's this: you are worthy because of who you are, not what you do. You are valuable. You get to choose. And if this community has encouraged you, inspired you, helped you feel less alone, I'd love for you to help us build the next 5 years. So whether that's becoming one of our paid Substack subscribers, enjoying one of these online courses, especially at the 50% off, sharing a podcast episode or panel with a friend, leaving us a comment, or simply inviting another woman into these conversations. Thank you. Thank you for believing in this community. Thank you for believing in one another. And thank you for building what comes next. Happy 5-year anniversary to Feel. I've got my coffee cup. It's too early here on the West Coast for a drink, but I'm toasting you with my coffee cup. Thank you for being with me today. Thank you for helping us celebrate 5 years of Feel. Thank you for your participation, your support, your love, all of the things. And remember, like I said earlier, you are valuable, you are worthy, and you get to choose. Thanks so much for joining us on this live conversation. Go catch that Leslie Draffin conversation. It's on all your favorite podcast platforms now. If you didn't get to listen to it before, go catch that Leslie Draffin conversation as well. Take good care, and we'll see you next week here on the Feel Podcast.